So let's look at some cladograms as some practice. So here's a cladogram that's been drawn for us. And then here are some different characteristics that you could actually use to go through and figure out how this cladogram was created. So I want you to go ahead and pause this video for a second, see if you can do that. By the way, these are not actual characteristics or established phylogeny for how these are have a common ancestor to one another. It's just for the case of helping us understand this. Okay, go ahead, pause the video, see if you can figure out what A, B, C, D, E, and so on are represented here. Okay, hopefully you did that. Here's what we can see. We see A, they all have in common everything after this. They're segmented bodies. B, then everything after that has legs. C, everything after this actually has 6 legs. D, we would see has crushing mouth parts. E has jumping legs, and they kind of branch off on their own. And then over here we would have F, shows us, oh, everything after this has wings. G, everything after this has a set of double wings. And H, we see curly antennas. So you can also make a cladogram off of something that looks like this. We would look at the traits here, and we would look at the species here, and we would say anything with a plus has that trait. So could we go ahead and look at what all these have in common? Well, I would say all of these have cells in common, and then everything after the slug has a backbone, everything after the frog or before the frog has legs, then hair, and then opposable thumbs. So if we went ahead and drew our phylogenetic tree, it might look something like this with these traits that we see in between each of the species that further differentiates them from the rest of them. So some tips, sometimes it's better to go simple, less assumptions, the better. And then like the less changes over time, the better. Careful of what's called convergent evolution. This is where organisms that are not actually closely related don't have the same morphologic phyletic traits, but actually evolve independently of one another because the environments that they're in are similar, and therefore over time they show similar adaptations because they have similar environments. And that's just the way that they solve the problem, right? The way that species stayed alive, even though they aren't super closely related. So when we look at these, right, X, Y, and Z all have the same characteristics and they evolve from there. Whereas like some of these, if you went like, oh, the green evolved and then the purple evolved and then the green again, right? Or the green, the purple, the green, like those changes of evolution, right? Some sort of adaptation that happened more than once is less likely. Oftentimes we go with the simpler assumption to be more correct. So let's say we have this phylogenetic tree. We could have a tiger and a lion. And the tiger and the lion have a common ancestor right here at the node. Actually, they would have one before here too. But that's kind of boring when we think about like, oh, here's our common ancestor. Actually, we should move our common ancestor kind of here, and then this would actually be even further along. Ignore that red circle there a little bit. But let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's add a tiger, leopard, lion, cheetah, grizzly bear. So which is the closest relative to the tiger? Here's our tiger here. So we're going to identify the last time tigers shared a common ancestor with anything. So we're going to trace that back to the node that lands right there. And then actually when I look at this, I go, well, turns out that the tiger is actually going to have two closest common ancestors, the leopard and the lion. They are equally, I guess, closely related, you could say, to the tiger because they both come off this node and they are equidistant from each other. So what's the closest living relative to the cheetah? Well, when I look at the cheetah, this is the node, and actually all of these, right, the tiger, the leopard, and the lion come off of this node and they are equidistant from the cheetah. So the cheetah is actually equally related to the tiger, the leopard, and the lion. Another question, do these two phylogenetic trees, so the same thing, why or why not? Maybe take a moment, pause this video, see if you can figure that out. They actually do. Okay, here's my node for the grizzly bear. Here's my node for the grizzly bear. Notice all of these others are on the same branch. All of these are on the same branch. They're the same. It's just rotated a little bit. We see that the lion and the leopard are the closest related. Lion and the leopard are closest related. The next common ancestor would be to the tiger, and then we have our cheetah here and our cheetah here. So they actually, yes, are showing the same relationship.